Morning everyone, my name is Margaret here at SCAD Studio Atlanta. Today I'm going to show you and explain to you how to use safely the bandsaw. So to start off, I'm just going to show you basically how the bandsaw works. And it's two wheels spinning into the same direction with a blade going downward, okay? So the most important thing about understanding how the bandsaw works is basically that the blade is going downward, and that's the main reason why whenever you're pushing a material into the blade, the material needs to be flat on the table. Whenever you're feeding the material in a high speed, or pushing it too quick, or curving it a little bit too much, it's when the blade up here binds and touches the rubber that's going around the wheel, and that's when we might have the situation where the blade breaks. We're going to go over the safety measures, and I'm going to go over everything that you need to know if this happens. But I'm just trying to explain the function of the blade just so you know why it happens. Okay, so there are different materials that you can use, and therefore you're going to be using different thicknesses. So the importance of the thickness is that one of the first steps before making a cut is you gotta plan accordingly depending on the material that you're going to be cutting. So for example, if I'm going to make a cut to this material, this is 3/4 of an inch, you have to adjust the safety guard accordingly. So if we have it here, you will undo over here and you're going to pull the safety guard to be around 1/2 an inch to 3/4 of an inch above the material, just so you prevent the blade to be super exposed. If I can bring the safety guard all the way up here, but why would I want to be exposed to more blade than I need to? And also, the more blade is exposed, the more easy to bend it, therefore to snap the blade. So always, the first thing whenever you come to the machine is put your material down and bring and adjust the safety guard accordingly. 1/2 an inch is a good measurement. The second thing that you need to do is, I'm not going to turn it on quite yet, but whenever you turn on the machine, it will take a couple seconds to reach to full speed. That's important. You do not want to start feeding material when the machine is not at full speed, because that can also cause the blade to break. So always when you're going to be making a cut, I know that we come over with a line and then you move the fence and you are making sure that you're right on the line, and then you press go. Please, before you press start, remove the material away from the blade, because if you turn it on with the blade touching, it's 100% sure that this will break, or your material will break or snap or come into your face. Okay, so always remove the material away. Then press start and then start your cut. What are you going to do whenever you're going to start a cut? First of all, before turning on the machine, you're going to make sure that your work is not touching the blade, right? Also, whenever you're pushing, make sure that your fingers are not in the line of cut. The line of cut refers to the imaginary line that comes right in front where the blade is going to be cutting. So whenever you're pushing your material, make sure that your hands are beside. We recommend 2-inch margin from your hands to the blade. I know sometimes we're going to get into those tricky places where your hands are gonna come pretty close, and that's why the safety guard is there. You're never gonna be able to come closer than those 2 inches if your hands are on the side. So the only thing that you need to focus is that to not have your hands in front in that line of cut. Also, very, very important, make sure that your material is sitting flat on the table, okay? If you're going to be working with a material like a cylinder or any other material that's not 100% flat, please reach out to one of the shop managers. We will help you create a jig accordingly, okay? So whenever you're ready, you're gonna start the machine and you're gonna start making your cut. And once you're all the way through, you're going to turn off the machine and then you're going to remove the material away. Important. Even though the blade is only in front, the line of cut also refers to the back side of the blade, okay? So I don't want anyone reaching over on the back side. Something can happen and your hand is going in. So please be careful on that. There are 2 ways to make a cut. If you want to make a pretty straight cut, we have the fence that you can adjust accordingly by undoing here, moving. This table will only allow you to do 12-inch width cuts. If you need to do bigger ones, we do have 2 more bandsaws available to do bigger, wider cuts. So let's say we're gonna make a straight cut and we need to do a very narrow, like 3-inch cut, okay? So we're gonna come over and we're gonna adjust the fence, make sure it's tight. And so what happens here where my hand cannot help push the material through? We have push sticks, okay? They live right beside the table. So depending on whatever you're doing, we have 2 different push sticks to prevent you from having your fingers closer than those 2 inches that I just mentioned, okay? So there are ways to make any type of cut. If you're in doubt, always ask us, okay? Also, very easy is, and I like to do this a lot, is I usually come to the outer side of the table. Whenever I'm using the fence, the only important thing is that I am pushing against the fence and forward. So I don't really need to be here. I can just do my cut like this. And I'm going to show you right now. So I will adjust the height because my material changed to 1/2 inch. And now I'm gonna turn on the machine. So as you can see, it's a perfectly straight cut. The rate I was feeding the material was very calm. I don't need to lose any control on it. I'm in no rush. Just find that speed where you're comfortable, where the machine is not making any weird noises, because the machine will make a strange sound whenever you're overfeeding it, going too quick, or making a curve. That's not how it should. So as you just saw, I just used the fence to make a straight cut. The coolest thing about the bandsaw is that this is the only machine that you can actually make a curved cut, okay? By curved, I mean any organic shape that you can imagine. Let's say I want to cut this rectangular piece into a half a moon shape, half a circle. So I make my lines and I will freehand this cut. This is also the only machine that you're going to be able to freehand your cuts. So what I mean by freehanding, and this is a very important, usually when we're cutting, we don't plan ahead. I definitely encourage everyone to plan ahead your cuts whenever you're in the bandsaw. Since there's only blade in the front and not on the back, you cannot back if you're on halfway your cut. If you get halfway on your cut and you're going off your lines, or you're making a little bit outside, or the curve was too closed and you want to stop, you can't just back up. You have to turn the power off, wait until it completely stops, and then get your material all the way out, okay? So whenever you're gonna be making a organic shape cut, you're gonna visualize. So my cut will start here, and then I'm gonna exit here. Sometimes I also encourage, if it's very, very closed, to drill some relieving holes, just so that you have a little bit of dropping material and you can make sure that you're cutting exactly where you want. So this cut should be fairly simple. I'm gonna turn on the machine, wait until it goes to full speed, and then slowly I'm gonna start feeding it. So this is a cut made here in the bandsaw, pretty cool. After making this cut, I usually encourage my students to go over the sander and just make this really smooth. Also, if you're gonna be using the sander and you have a line, I also encourage people to cut outside the line and sand to the line, okay? Somewhere where you have a little bit more of a room to get to a precision. The bandsaw, it cuts other materials besides wood. You can cut acrylic, you can even cut the pink foam that we use for our mock-ups in class. And before you do any other material, please reach out to us and ask if the material is it's good for cutting in the bandsaw. I usually get a lot of questions of cardboard, and I definitely say no to cardboard, but just know that there's a lot of versatility in the machine when it comes to materials. Today, I also want to show you how to do a compound cut. So let's say you wanna make this oval shape that is going on both ways, okay? So remember when I mentioned about the material always being flat on the table? I will show you how to make your first cut and then how to do your second cut in order to get that compound shaped object, okay? So obviously the first thing that you need to do is adjust the height of the safety guard to around 1/2 inch. And then whenever you're ready, you're gonna come over and we're gonna make our first cut. Okay? So I always like to plan wherever I feel more comfortable, and I feel I'm comfortable doing it right here. So I'm gonna press start. Okay, so once I've done my first cut, right, from this side, I always like people to save the drop. The drop material is whatever you're not gonna be using. And why do I say this? Because our second cut is still drawn here. So what am I gonna do now? I will keep my three materials just like I had them, and I'm just gonna grab some tape and I'm gonna tape it around to make sure that I have a flat surface to reintroduce my material. Making this cut right here, this is really, really unsafe. Once I start feeding the material, it will probably pull me because the blade is going down. It's going to shoot the material down and pull my hand towards the blade. So that's why I'm saying it's 100% important that you keep your drop material so that you can put it back together and then make your second cut. Okay, so once you've placed your material back with the drop materials and you're ready to do the other side, I always encourage also to redraw those lines even on top of the tape so you know where you're cutting. The tape is safe to cut in the bandsaw, okay? It will just obviously cut, and whenever you're reaching to one side, just be careful because you've got three pieces together, okay? So mind where your hands are going. Now we're gonna do the second side. Okay, and that is how you get to a compound shape in a very safe way, okay? So we've discussed everything that you can do on the bandsaw. But what happens if you're working and you hear a clicking sound? That is when you definitely need to press the stop button and stop what you're doing. What the clicking sound means is that there's probably the blade is about to break, and whenever it breaks, the clicking will stop because you're gonna hear a big sound. Sometimes you can get a little too nervous when you hear that sound. Please don't get any nervous. The blade is tucked in there. It's never gonna pop out. You're just gonna hear the sound, and then the blade is just not gonna spin anymore. So please turn off the machine and wait until it's a complete stop and tell a shop technician what's happening. Also, whenever you're ready to finish with the machine, as you see, when you turn it on, it takes a couple seconds to reach to full speed. Also, when you're turning it off, it also takes around 30 seconds to come to a complete stop. Sometimes we have the dust collector on and the sound of the machine blends a little bit with the sound of the dust collector. So please stand by until you see that the blade is on a complete stop before you walk away. And the last thing is, whenever you're done, please clean up after yourselves, but we have dust pans available for you to clean up. Never use your hands because there might be particles that can hurt you. So Always use the dustpan. Make sure that you leave the space clean for the next person, and then once you're completely done, you can just walk away. I hope this demo was helpful, and if you have any additional questions, please reach out to us. Thank you.